Welcome to Unbound, the podcast with Beth Curry, author, storyteller, and survivor. This is where books meet real life, where Beth reads chapters from her work and breaks free from the traditional audiobook format, diving deeper into the personal experiences, lessons, and liberation behind every page. Nothing is off limits. Let's get unbound.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Unbound. I'm Beth Curry. Today's chapter is called Fading Echoes of a Vibrant Mind, and it kind of touches on watching Mom's world get smaller. So, she once kind of had these large events at the church, and she hosted these endless gatherings, and now, too much noise is a bit too much for her. Too many people is too much for her. And I'm also going to talk about one of the hardest questions that she asks me frequently, which has turned more into a statement now and less of a question, and that's, can I come and live with you? So I'm just going to start. Fading Echoes of a Vibrant Mind. The changes in Mom's response to stimulation have become increasingly apparent. She once commanded large functions and hosted endless gatherings, and now she shrinks from too much noise, too many people, too much of anything. It's like watching someone's world gradually contract, the edges drawing in for safety. In louder environments, like the dining room during peak hours, the lobby when someone's wheeling a cart through, the common room during activities, she becomes almost childlike. Her voice gets smaller, her shoulders hunch slightly, her eyes dart around as if searching for escape routes. The cacophony of voices and sounds seems to overwhelm her processing abilities, leaving her vulnerable and uncertain. "It's too noisy," she'll whisper, her hand finding mine like I used to reach for hers in crowded places when I was little. This role reversal strikes me every time. Now I'm the one providing the anchor in chaos. But sometimes she loses her filter and yells across the room at the very person making the noise in a very angry fashion. This is hard to watch sometimes, as I know she would be shocked at her own behavior. This isn't how she was. She was always very careful to not hurt or offend others. When more than a couple people visit at once, I've noticed her coping mechanisms kick in. Suddenly her hip hurts, maybe her stomach, or she's developing a headache, or she's just so tired. These aren't conscious fabrications. Her brain seems to manifest physical responses to emotional overwhelm. "I think I need to rest now," she'll announce in the middle of family visits, her way of signaling that her processing capacity has reached its limit. Most times she'll actually drift off to sleep, her mind's way of hitting the reset button when everything becomes too much. It's another adjustment in how we interact with her, learning to keep visits smaller, quieter, more controlled. Finding the sweet spot between engagement and overwhelm, watching for the signs that she's reaching her limits before the anxiety or physical complaints begin. We've learned to adapt our visits like adjusting the dimmer switch on a light, keeping things soft, controlled, and manageable. One-on-one interactions have become our gold standard. In these quieter moments, Mom can focus, engage, and stay present longer without retreating into confusion or complaint. The strategies are simple but crucial. Never more than 2 visitors at once. Keeping visits in her room rather than common areas when possible. Morning or early afternoon visits when she's freshest. Watching for signs of overwhelm, like that slight tension around her eyes or the way her hands start fidgeting, and being ready to end things before she reaches her limit. We rarely take her out anymore. While Willow Grove might not be her favorite place, it's become her safe space. The familiar walls and routines provide a container for her increasingly overwhelming world. Even short trips to family homes can throw her off balance now. Too many people, too many stimuli, too many chances for confusion, and often too much begging to stay forever while also wanting to leave. "Can we go back now?" she'll ask when we do venture out, her voice carrying that edge of anxiety that means she's reaching capacity. It doesn't matter if we've only been gone for an hour. When she's done, she's done. She seems to find comfort in the quiet predictability of her room now. I've learned to read her cues like a weather map, watching for those early warning signs of storm clouds gathering. Her sentences getting shorter, her eyes darting around, the emergence of physical complaints, her voice becoming smaller, and that slight retreat into herself. When I see these signs, I know it's time to wrap things up, to help her find a way back to calm before the overwhelm takes over completely. Sometimes this means ending a visit earlier than planned, but better to leave while the experience is still positive than push her past her limits. Can I come live with you? The question comes almost every visit now, breaking my heart in new ways each time. I'll give you all my money, she adds, as if this would somehow make the impossible possible. This is pure mom logic. She always believed love and resources could solve any problem. After all, isn't that how she lived her life? Taking care of others, opening her home and making room for everyone who needed it? But we're not her. We don't have her seemingly limitless capacity for caregiving. When she suggests moving in with us, I have to fight back the guilt that threatens to drown me. How do you explain to someone who gave everything to everyone that not all of us are built that way? That sometimes love means knowing your limitations. We can't take care of you in the way professionals can, Mom, I tell her, the words tasting bitter every time. You could all quit your jobs, she suggests, as if it's that simple, as if dedicating ourselves to her care would be as natural as breathing, the way it was for her when she was caring for others. The hardest part is knowing that this isn't really about money or logistics. It's about her wanting to go home, to family, to something that feels normal. But I've seen what full-time caregiving does to parent-child relationships. I want to remain her daughter. I need to remain her daughter. The moment I become her caregiver, something precious would be lost. The very connection she's trying to hold on to. I just want to go home, she'll say, and I hear all the layers in that simple statement. Home isn't just a place. It's a time when she was independent, capable, herself. But that home doesn't exist anymore, and pretending we could recreate it would only hurt us both. The guilt sits heavy, though. Mom never said no to anyone who needed help. Now has to hear her daughter say no to her. Even knowing it's the right decision doesn't make it easier. Every "we can't, Mom" feels like a betrayal of her lifelong example of sacrificial care. The guilt is a pretty constant companion for me now, showing up with each "please let me come home with you" and lingering long after our visits end. It whispers in my ear during sleepless nights. She took care of everyone. Why can't you take care of her? It shadows me when I leave Willow Grove, her hopeful suggestions about giving us her money still hanging in the air. It's exhausting. But I've learned, partly through my psychology background, partly through hard experience, that guilt isn't always a reliable compass. Mom took care of others, yes, but she did it when she was healthy, capable, and in her element. She wasn't managing her own declining cognitive function while trying to care for others. She wasn't trying to maintain her own mental health while watching a parent slowly slip away. Setting boundaries feels like a betrayal of her example, but maybe it's actually honoring her in a different way. Mom always taught us to know ourselves, to be honest about our capabilities. Wouldn't pretending I could handle full-time caregiving be a bigger betrayal? Wouldn't destroying my own mental health and potentially damaging our relationship be the opposite of what she would want? I just want to help you, she'll say, offering her money again, and I'll hear echoes of how she used to be, always finding ways to support others, always giving. But the boundaries have to hold, even when they hurt us both. Because what she needs isn't just care. She needs professional care. She needs people who can maintain emotional distance while providing physical proximity. She needs caregivers who won't be devastated when she asks for the 10th time where Dave is. I love you, Mom. I tell her instead of engaging with the money offers. And I'm here. I'm just here in a different way. Sometimes she understands. Sometimes she doesn't. Sometimes she'll say, I know you can't take care of me. And in the next breath, offer all her money again. The guilt rides these waves with us, rising and falling, but the boundaries have to remain. Solid shoreline against an emotional tide. Finding ways to show care within our limitations has become its own kind of art. Instead of taking on the role of caregiver, I focus on being present as a daughter. I bring her favorite snacks. I might paint her nails, show her pictures of the family, small acts of love that don't require me to stretch beyond my capabilities, but let her know she's cherished. When she offers her money again, when she begs to come home with us, I try to redirect rather than refuse. Finding ways to show her she's loved and connected without promising what I can't deliver. Preserving our mother-daughter relationship feels crucial now more than ever, because underneath the confusion, underneath the repeated questions and shifting memories, she's still my mom. I see it in the way she still tries to mother me, asking me if I'm eating enough, telling me to drive safely, worrying about whether I'm happy. If I became her full-time caregiver, these precious moments of genuine mother-daughter connection might be lost in the daily grind of medical needs and physical care. "Remember when you used to run up those wooden stairs to watch hockey with your dad?" she'll ask suddenly. And for a moment, she's fully my mom again, sharing our history, holding our memories. These are the moments I'm fighting to preserve when she's not a patient needing care, but my mother sharing stories, even if they repeat and even if they sometimes get mixed up. Understanding my limitations and boundaries isn't weakness, and I have to keep reminding myself of that. It's wisdom born from experience. Through my work with the local police service supporting victims, taught me the crucial importance of recognizing compassion fatigue. We learned that it's not a sign of failure, but rather a natural response to carrying others' emotional burdens. And being an empath on top of it, and I know what I'm capable of. Compassion fatigue can sneak up gradually like water slowly filling a bucket. Each emotional investment, each painful story we absorb, each person we try to help adds another drop. For me, it's happened more than once. That overwhelming feeling of emotional exhaustion where your capacity to care feels stretched paper thin. This understanding helps me navigate my role in Mom's journey. I am her daughter, not her caregiver. It's a crucial distinction that protects both our relationship and my mental health. When I sit with her at Willow Grove, I'm there to love her, to record her stories, to be present as her child, not to shoulder the full weight of her care. Professional caregivers are trained for the daily challenges of dementia care. They have systems in place, emotional boundaries, and the ability to clock out. They can provide the consistent round-the-clock care Mom needs while maintaining their own well-being. My role is different, to preserve our mother-daughter bond, to capture her memories, to love her without burning myself out. This isn't about loving her less or caring less deeply. It's about loving her in a sustainable way that honors both her needs and my limitations. Understanding this has helped me be more present during our visits, more capable of handling the emotional complexity of watching her change, more able to be her daughter rather than her caregiver. The truth is, becoming her caregiver wouldn't give her what she really wants, which is to be herself again, to be the mom who took care of everyone else. By maintaining my role as daughter, I can at least give her moments where she still gets to be mom. When she fusses over my sweater being too thin or asks if I'm getting enough sleep, she gets to feel like herself again, if only briefly. "I love you, Mom," I tell her as I leave, and this, at least, needs no explanation. No boundaries, no limitations. In this, I can be as generous as she always was. Each time I visit, I gather all my broken pieces, glue them hurriedly together, and walk into Willow Grove, as whole as I can manage to be. Okay, so that was a little shorter, that chapter. Had some long episodes lately, and I keep saying, maybe this one's shorter. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about compassion fatigue. The concept of compassion fatigue is something that I learned. I was actually trained. We did a whole training module on it through my work with victims in the police service, but I live it now in a completely different context. People don't really talk about this enough. You can love someone deeply and still recognize that full-time caregiving would destroy you both. It's not weakness. It's completely self-awareness. When Mom offers me all her money to let her come live with us, she's trying to solve a problem the way that she always did, just, with the resources that she has and the love that she can give. But what she doesn't really understand anymore is that some situations can't be solved that way. Professional care isn't always about money. It's about maintaining a relationship that matters more than anything. Like I kept stating, I want to be her daughter and I need to be her daughter, and I will lose that if I become her full-time caregiver. And she loses it too, and I don't want that loss. We're already losing enough. I don't want that. I also mentioned in the chapter that compassion fatigue kind of fills you like water in a bucket, drop by drop. What I didn't say is that there's no way to empty that bucket completely. You can pour some of it out through therapy or through breaks or through self-care, but once you've absorbed someone's pain, you carry pieces of it forever. And knowing this and knowing my bucket already has water in it from years of victim work and from my own traumas and recent painful experiences and losses and watching my dad die, it kind of helps me understand why I can't be mom's primary caregiver. So, like, as sad as all that shit was, it's also kind of been a blessing. It's not that I don't love her enough. It's that I know myself well enough to recognize I would break under that weight. And a broken daughter serves, absolutely no one. So I'm going to jump into some questions now because I have a whole bunch here and I want to try to get to them all. First one is from Angela. Angela says, in the Little Things chapter, you wrote about choosing honesty versus kindness when your mom asks about Dave. Have you found that one approach works better overall? Honestly, Angela, no, there's no one size fits all answer. So what I've learned to read is, I said this before, her energy in that particular moment. Sometimes she needs the truth, even though it hurts. Sometimes redirection serves her better, serves me better. What I found is that, when I catch her anxiety building before she asks the question directly, I can redirect and avoid that loop completely. But once she's asking, I don't have Dave anymore, she's already accessed some awareness, and vague answers just frustrate her more. It's pretty exhausting never knowing which approach to use, but this disease is exhausting. So, nothing we can do about that. Next question comes from Rob. You mentioned in warning signs that your mom loses her filter sometimes. Can you talk more about what that looks like and how you handle it in public? Yeah. So the filter loss is one of the hardest things to navigate socially. Mom will say things now that she would have never said before, blunt observations about people's appearance, inappropriate comments, swearing like a trucker in situations where she she wouldn't have ever dreamed of it before. I'm sorry, it makes me laugh. Like this little detail just actually brings me joy. Because sometimes I'll be reserved too, but then I'll drop like an F-bomb or something. Anyway, in public, I've learned to run interference when possible, but we don't really go out in public anymore. If I see her gearing up to say something, I'll try to redirect. If she's already said it, I'll apologize to whoever's on the receiving end and explain briefly that she's got dementia. But honestly, some people get it. They just get it. And some don't. The judgmental looks, suck, especially because I know how mortified mom would be if she understood what she was doing, because this isn't who she is, right? This is completely the disease. Next question is from Sarah. The Through the Fog section mentioned sundowning, and you said you visit earlier in the day, but what about the staff who have to work with her during those difficult evening hours? Sarah, that's a thoughtful question. I will address the Willow Grove staff, but I will also say that mom sleeps a lot. And I think that they just allow that to happen because maybe it's easier, maybe it's better for her. I don't know. They know, better than I would. But anyway, they're incredible. They deal with sundowning across multiple residents probably every single day. And I'm sure that they have strategies like maintaining their routines and staying calm and, not really arguing with confused residents. But I won't lie. I know it's hard on them too. Dementia care workers are undervalued and most definitely underpaid for the emotional and physical labor that they do. They show up every day for people's hardest moments. And they do that so that I don't have to. When I visit during mom's good hours and leave before sundowning hits, I am acutely aware that someone else is handling the harder part. And that guilt is part of why I try to be so appreciative with the staff because, they are doing what I can't. Next question is from Patricia. Beth, do you ever tell her Dave is at work or running errands instead of saying he's gone? Would that be kinder? Yep, I've talked about this and I will talk about it again. I struggle with this every time. I've tried both. I do redirect. He's not here right now, Mom. And that can work if I catch it early enough. But if she's specifically asking, I don't have him anymore. Like I said, she's already accessed some awareness that he's gone. Vague answer doesn't satisfy that. And she'll keep pushing until she gets the truth. And then we're right back into that stupid loop anyway. I also said Mom asked for honesty in clearer moments. And every time I consider the gentle lie, I hear that request. There's, no perfect answer here. Some days I tell the truth. Some days I redirect. I just kind of try to read what she needs in that specific moment, and I forgive myself when I get it wrong. Next question is from Dave. Hi, Dave. You mentioned she sometimes laughs about her memory loss. How do you tell the difference between genuine humor and covering up fear or embarrassment? That's a pretty insightful question. I watch her eyes. So when the humor is genuine, when she says something like, well, at least every day is a surprise, there's a lightness in her face, like her eyes crinkle. There's a bit of a sparkle there. There's a presence. The joke lands. When she's covering, though, there's obvious tension underneath. The laugh is a little too quick or too forced. She'll make a joke, but then immediately pull back or change the subject, or she'll laugh, but her hands will be fidgeting. That kind of gives away the anxiety underneath. Her genuine humor has always been a bit self-deprecating, but playful. The covering humor feels defensive, if that makes sense. It's a very subtle difference, but after enough visits, you learn to read it. Honestly, sometimes I let her cover if humor is what she needs to cope in that moment, even if it's masking pain. That's okay. Not every difficult emotion needs to be processed in real time. Question from Michelle. Those trips you took with your mom, do you wish you'd known then what you know now, or are you glad you got to just enjoy them as they were? Michelle, I've thought about this a lot. Part of me wishes we'd recognized the signs earlier. Maybe we could have got her evaluated sooner, started interventions earlier, or documented more of her while she was still more herself. But another part of me is grateful we didn't know. Those trips were fun. Chaotic and sometimes frustrating, but fun. We have good and funny memories of them. We laughed at the broken ATM and the missing purse at the airport and the turtle viewing and her falling in the bathtub, although that's not really funny, and the way my son talks about how she used to have to do a running jump to get onto the bed because it was so high off the ground, and he was 11 or 12 at the time, and he thought that was hilarious. Anyway, mom's a shorty, and she had to get a running jump to get onto the bed, all of that kind of stuff. If we'd known what we were actually witnessing, would we have been able to laugh? I don't know. We still laugh at some things now, so maybe, but I don't know for sure. But the memories are bittersweet. We have the laughter recorded alongside of the stupid warning signs. If we'd known, I think maybe all we'd remember is the fear. So I don't know. Maybe ignorance was a gift we didn't know we were getting, if that makes sense. That's it for questions. So next episode, I will read the chapter called Weather Balloons. It's about mom growing up in Big Trout Lake and her dad's job in meteorology. A little bit more spontaneous poetry that still emerges. The caregivers who truly understand, and probably touch on a bit more about the 16-hour loop of discovering Dave's death over and over again. Not probably, I will actually be talking about that because I believe I wrote about that again. If you have any questions or comments that I might comment on or address in the next episode, please send them to unboundwithbethcurry@gmail.com or join the Facebook group. And if you want to support the show, all the info how to do that is in the show notes. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to Unbound with Beth Curry. Join the conversation in the Facebook group or visit authorbethcurry.com. Want to support the show? Head to ko-fi.com/unbound podcast. Until next time, stay unbound.